thank you guys. I know it's hard to come out like, Wednesday morning and come out early. I appreciate your coach letting you guys do this. This is cool. I mean, it means he cares, So I think, as a teacher and, as a consultant and, do a lot of that kind of stuff for the community, taking time means a lot. And so I appreciate y'all taking time this morning. And I really commend your coach for what you guys are doing. And, I hope this is a session that you guys are going to actually take something away. One of the cool things I think is as a teacher and in my role as a consultant is I've been able to go to 57 countries all over the world and work with small businesses, companies like Volkswagen, big chemical companies, and been all over speaking at big universities, small communities, big communities, and I love our area. And I think we got to be committed to it, and I think all of us can make a difference. And I hope you guys take it seriously that you're our leader, And so this session is going to be looking at three things. We only got 45 minutes, and I'm taking literally, sometimes I'll do sessions like this for a 2-week period for organizations. So we're compressing a lot of what I call the essence. So this is the TikTok version of leadership and communications and integration together to help you guys maybe get an idea of some things to think about. So a lot of y'all have started off with your Myers-Briggs. Has anybody not done it yet? Does anybody not have 4 letters to talk about today? All right, beautiful. So I want to make sure that you guys have that because that's going to be kind of the foundation. So again, what we're going to kind of look at is our Myers-Briggs. How many people's actually done Myers-Briggs in your classes at Bluefield State? Some of my friends up there who teach business, I know do it. Anybody? So you've done it in class or in psychology class or something? Yeah. So a lot of times it kind of goes with the psychology classes. But what I've found in a lot of organizations, we do this for employees to understand why we act and behave and communicate and make decisions. Because it boils down, whether you're on the field or whether you're starting a business, whether you're working in teams, you have to understand yourself. And I think looking in the mirror every day is what makes us more aware and more effective, right? So the more we can kind of understand that. So we're going to look at that personality side. I'm also going to do a little leadership assessment that I've been doing with a lot of supervisory training. So last summer I worked with about 10 organizations in Southwest Virginia. We've got about 25 employees from different companies. And we really boil down leadership into one big area. Now, if you guys teach business or you do education, there's like 15 leadership theories. And actually, if you break those down, there's even more than that. But I kind of work with 7 or 8 corporate executives, speakers who teach leadership, and I boil mine down to one type I think is the best, and it's called authentic leadership. And so we're going to do a little assessment and look at where you stand on this authentic leadership stuff. And then lastly, we're going to pull it together. We're going to talk about basic communications. You guys got to communicate as a team. You got to like each other, and if you don't like each other, you got to work together, don't you? So you're going to have conflict. You're going to have ways of doing things that's different than your buddy. And so we're going to kind of look at your style, your personality profile, and then we're going to kind of pull those things together. And we're going to do it really quick. How's that sound? So I talk really fast. I'm still from Northeast Tennessee, but I have my Southwest Virginia dialect. So if I talk too fast, just kind of slow down. And I believe this will be archived. And then, we can always go back and listen to it another time. But I always like to start off with, why is this stuff important? One thing, a lot of you guys, and maybe if you're online, you're in an organization, I wish I could see you guys online, but all of us in here probably are aware that we have a problem in our workplace. It's disengagement. And I'm not just saying workplace as in, I go teach or I have my business and I go in with my employees. It's on the teams. It's in your athletics. It's in your organizations. It's in your nonprofits. We have this thing called engagement, and that means people come to work with a sense of passion for what they do. Right? I know you guys love baseball. A lot of you guys get a scholarship because of it. How many people get a scholarship for playing a sport? Right? Well, isn't that the best of both worlds? You get money to do something you love. So I would say you guys are pretty engaged. Savannah's doing what she loves because she has got the education skills, knowledge, and experience to be good at it. But here's the thing. In the United States, if we look at this, we have a group of people that are really disengaged. And this word actively disengaged basically means people come to work and they're the cancer of the organization. They're the student who don't care about grades. They come in late, they have this bad attitude, oh, that's a stupid test, that teacher's stupid. They have this negative energy, right? How many people know these people? Thirdly, cancer. I have worked with this organization, with this one organization, and this person had a great personality. They were pretty knowledgeable, a lot of experience, had a passion for what they, or had a good skill set, but they didn't have a passion for what they were doing. But they talked bad about the organization. They made fun of the workers or the other workers, and they made fun of the supervisors. And they start planting seeds in people's minds. People believe that person. So these kind of people are in our workplace. So this is a problem. We've got 30% of people that's engaged. So imagine that. And this is a study that looks across the United States. 30% of our workforce come to work and love what they do. I love what I do. I love what I do. I mean, I'm not doing this for a nickel. I can do these workshops all day for free. I can't do them all day for free, so don't let Jim get you there. But I'm one of these folks who enjoy what they do. They come and they work a little overtime. You know, I've never seen a 40-hour work week, I'll be honest. I worked in corporate world for about 10, 15 years, and then I started teaching at night at Adjunct. So I was always doing 60-hour work weeks. Not because I wanted to make money. Money wasn't my motivator. Money was my motivator in college when I was getting out, because I grew up poor. That was getting me into, you know, out of the poorhouse to a little money. But then after you get about 6 or 7 years into it, it's like, okay, money's not your motivator. That wasn't for me. So, you know, you find that passion through the things you like to do at work, okay? So think of that this whole session. Am I doing what I like to do? So these actively engaged people are really the movers and shakers who get about 80% of the work done, okay? These are the people on the team who score more, have better stats, put more effort, have more successful businesses, because they know what they need to do, they use their personalities, and they lead people, and they get things done. They're results-oriented. Does that make sense? So I just want you to think about, here's a problem. People who are just kind of just getting by. And we have, you know, the C student, just getting by. You know, the ones who just kind of come in, it's like, well, yeah, I'm just here to get my, you know, a B gets a degree. That kind of attitude, okay? So I want us to kind of present the problem, because what we're talking about today kind of fits well. So, you know, I think about our topic. 70 to 90% of managers are supposed to spend most of their time in communication. What you do on the field, what you do in the classroom, all of your coach, all of these interactions is about communication. How you communicate to your team, how you encourage your team, how you encourage your employees. So I want you to think about that. This is a big chunk of time. We're spending a big chunk of time. So if I'm spending a lot of time with you talking or communicating or getting things done, then there's a lot of room for mistakes, right? And so we communicate from our position. But I want you to think about in this session, how do we communicate from the other person's position? How can I influence a person and not just tell them to do something, but work with them based on my personality and influence them through other ways? So I'd like to take a second. You guys, a lot of you guys were told to come in, and maybe we'll get on our chat, on our Zoom call. What would you see as a benefit if you can improve your effectiveness in your communications? Why did you all come? What would you really want to get out of a session like this? Somebody tell me. Why are you here besides the coach telling you to come? Something you're curious about.
The approach. The approach?
The approach? What do you mean?
I mean, just how to approach different people.
Okay, I don't know how you approach people and do the approach to communicate with people. Cool. Others, on this side, what do you really feel like you have a problem with on the field, in the classroom, some of your work?
Just being like assertive, like getting my message across with just like a few words. Okay,
getting my message across with just a few words. Okay. He's one of my students, by the way. He's very engaged. How about online? Do we have any comments for folks online yet?
Must be a little drowsy.
Everybody's got to wake it up. I know. Luckily, I brought my energy game this morning, so I haven't even had coffee. So. But I want you to think about, what are you getting out of this workshop? And I think what you're going to find is that when you start communicating better, here's what you're going to see. And again, I worked with a government agency once, and they made a lot of money. The employees made a lot of money, but they were not effective. You're going to see better relations with your team. Okay, we're going to see improved relations through good, effective communication. We're going to look at productivity get better, because when you communicate more effectively, you are working in the flow. I mean, that's the goal. You know, when you're right in the middle, and I appreciate your coach coming in. I really think all of you experience flow. You know, when you're in the middle of a video game or in the middle of a live game and you're just feeling good, you're ahead, you're beating the other team, you know what I'm talking about? And you just, time flies by. Y'all experience this? You get into something and you're like, man, how does this flow by? That's flow. So when you're, and I have we're doing a startup business over on the other side of the town. It's an axe throwing business. And we have been doing all kinds of stuff by hand. We're putting up axe throwing cages. We're putting up these walls and decorative stuff and putting in coolers and all this stuff. And we have a team that does this. And now we're at the point where we can just go in and we finish each other's sentences. Have you ever had that kind of person, that friend that you communicate so well with and they finish your sentences? That's what we're looking for, and that's what some of the benefits are. And I think overall it reduces stress. And to me, I chose teaching because I'm not into stress. I used to work in stressful jobs, and I am just not into that. I just don't like it. So I think good communication affects it. All right, let's look at your personalities for a second. So pull out your Myers-Briggs assessments. I don't know if you can see this really well. You've taken this assessment tool. Now I want you to know that this assessment tool is not a big psychological, it is a psychological assessment, but it's not 100% the word. It's basically kind of looking at traits and characteristics of your personality, okay? So how many people in here, and I'll start off with mine, how many people in here are an ENFP? Anybody who's an ENFP in here? ENFP. Oh, so ENFPs, we are considered the most optimistic type, personality type. Now, just kind of look at this, using me as an example. My Myers-Briggs is giving life an extra squeeze. Now, you can go to 16 Personalities, the site where Savannah sent, and you can get into the great detail of this. And I encourage everybody. This tool has been given, I know in the organizations that I've consulted with, probably 5,000 people that I personally have worked with in companies who use this and found better ways to communicate, build better teams, work more effectively. So this is stuff's legit. So I encourage you guys after this session, go dig into this. This is pretty cool stuff. It made a big difference when I was in college. So it goes back a long time. So for me as an ENFP, I like to be that person who is people oriented. So as you can see on here in the bottom right, people oriented, creative, seeks harmony, the life of the party, more starts than finishes. So we like to start things, right? We're kind of like that, that little eager squirrel who just, likes to start projects. And my girlfriend, she's like, David, if I get one more project, I'm going to do it. And so I'm like, all right, we'll slow down on the projects. So anybody in here, let's just go through, how many ISTJs? All right, ENTJs. Any ENTJs in here? ENTJs. ESTJs, ISTPs, INTJs, any INTJs? How many people in here, let me get a show of hands, how many people's first letter is E? Raise your hand. If your first letter is E, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, keep them up. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's more than 20 in here, Savannah. You said there's 20.
There is more than 20 of you in here. Weird.
So we've got extroverts here. So all of you guys, let's just kind of quickly just kind of hit this up. You guys are extroverts. Now there's not a good, this is not good or bad, right or wrong. This is not a Facebook quiz. This is a psychometric assessment done by the combination group of Myers and Briggs. And basically, this is how you get this is basically how you direct your energy. Has anybody noticed that my style is a little bit, how do I say it? Out there, right? Right? That's an E. I'm an E. I've embraced my E. You know you're an E or you're an I. Extroverts really kind of look at the outer world. We get energy from things and we talk. We get energy from people. We love to have interactions. We love to get ideas from people and share our ideas. We're the ones who talk out loud. So you may be on the team and somebody's talking out loud. They're not crazy. They're just a way, they're an extrovert. That's expressions. That's how they express themselves. And you need to value that. Now, how many eyes in here we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eyes, 9 eyes. Maybe you're an EI. You're an EI split. I was just like, hey, stop raising the hand over here. I missed. But there are like a lot of folks on the cusp, and you're just special. I'm just kidding. Introverts are different. They get their energy from thinking within. They get their energy thinking more and processing internally versus maybe like me going to spin and say, "Sam, I want to talk about this." Right? So they value understanding and their energy coming from within. Okay. So let's talk about kind of where you get your energy. Extroverts like social mobility, interaction, the external world, outside trust. They value relationships. They are action junkies sometimes. Now this may seem a little bit like, oh, I'm both. But what we are on this assessment is you're really stronger one than the other. Does that make sense? I don't like these assessments because a lot of people say, oh, that labels me. And that's not what this kind of does. If you're one or more than the other, it is pretty accurate. How many people kind of like say who's an E? You're like, how many people read this list on the E and say, yeah, that's me? Anybody like, home run? Yeah. Action or external events. They do think, do. Whereas the introverts think, do, think. Introverts really focus on concentration. They value internal, they have deeper relationships a lot of times. So, they spend a lot of time thinking about, reflecting on ideas, reflecting on relationships. They value thinking about a process versus just going and doing it. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that an introvert's not a doer, because I know a lot of my friends and colleagues and students are doers, but they think a lot and then they have targeted action. That makes sense? So in most cases, that's even sometimes better than extroverts, because we just kind of maybe jump in and do it, and then we're like, oh, made a mistake on that, should have thought about it a little bit more. That makes sense? It's kind of cool stuff, isn't it? So let's look at the S or an I. How many in here are sensing? S. The second letter is S. How many people on your Myers-Briggs assessment is an S? Okay, how many people has more intuition? I. N. How many have the letter N? Okay, good. This is a really interesting fact, because if you think about it, a lot of you guys play baseball, and you make decisions, right? And you're processing information. So when something's coming at you really fast, you process things differently, right? A lot of times there's that gut reaction, jump in and respond. But with this area, this is how we process the world around us. We look at the world around us and we take it in differently. So if you're a sensing, so if you have an S as your second letter, you prefer to deal with facts, and you're comfortable with the knowledge that you know. So like if somebody said, where's a really good restaurant in Bluefield? And you may say, well, I know Shogun is probably the best, because that's what you really feel, because you have that experience of it. S's really focus on, I think, the world as objective, okay? They see the world kind of objectively. If you like ideas, you like to be the one who's a little willing to change. Now, this is really for those who might be in a business. I see a lot of managers who really are looking for this because they can adapt to change. So a lot of folks who have the N, intuition, seem like they maybe like and value change. So let's kind of look at the differences. The five senses is a big priority. See, smell, and tasting. When you're getting ready to process you got to buy a new car, you're processing information, you're thinking about, what's mileage, what is the life of the car, you're thinking about really specifics about that decision. When you're looking at college scholarships, you're thinking how much money am I going to get, is the program good, really specifics. You're looking for facts, you value facts. You're pretty down to earth, you're not pie in the sky. You're probably not going to be that person who just jumps right in and takes a huge risk. You're going to think about it a lot. Intuition. People like this have hunches. So again, it goes back to if I'm buying a car. I see a really cool car over here. I like it. I might not really care about the gas mileage. It's got 4 wheels. Runs. Feels like me. That's an N. That's an N. They value insights. And they're really imaginative. So for those N's, how many people are like, sure sounds like me. Yeah, the intuition is an interesting thing, because we value facts, but that's not a priority. I'm not processing the world through my five senses. I'm processing it through what could it be like. I'm an N. I came to Bluefield. My students say this all the time. There's not much to do in Bluefield. I'm like, oh, well, come out on my razor on some side-by-side trail, on my side-by-side, we'll take some trails, let me show you some cool waterfalls and some really cool other places. I said, there's some possibilities here, but you just gotta find it, right? That's my answer when I hear that question. And so I think we process things in two approaches. All right, let's talk about how you make decisions. So this is a really fascinating part of our Myers-Briggs. How many people start letters of T? Thinking. Thinking, okay, thinkers, all right? How many people are feelers? Fs. How many Fers are in here? So if I'm a thinker, I really value logic, and I make decisions based on, goes back to a lot of those factual type pieces. I'm very detached. You know, if you're a thinker, you're really detached. So if you're on the team, you may be that kind of person that's like, well, you didn't do this and this and this, and you're throwing out facts. Feelers are like, man, you hurt my feelings. I don't like the way you said that. Or maybe you're that person who's got that lot of passion and energy, and you get ticked off real easy. A lot of people, when I used to work at a bar, I worked in bars and actually started one, it's funny. And I get into these bar fights. Well, I had to break them up when I was in your all's college years and afterwards. And I mean, people get upset because of something stupid. And that's probably because they have this feeling, instead of using their logical thought, like, oh, if I hit somebody, I can get put in jail. You know, I might lose my job, I might lose my car, like DUIs, you know, I feel like I can drive home, that's okay. That's a stupid decision, isn't it? Sometimes it's because they're more feeling motivated than they are using their thinking side. Does that make sense? So feelers really value their personal beliefs and value others, what people think about them. How many people here really worry about your image? You want to make sure you have the cool clothes. You want to make sure you're accepted by your peers. Even though you might not say you do, that's a big thing at this stage in what they call the PhD stage of development. We're young professionals, we're trying to fit in with everybody else, right? You value what people think about you. You value that you get the same workout and you're working harder and you want people to respect you, right? That's a big F side, the feeling side. So again, you go back to how you make decisions, thinkers. If you're on the T, if you have a T here, you are really more logical, thinking more objectively, you kind of critique things. You might be that person who's actively disengaged in the organization or the team because you don't really think it's a bad deal to show opinion about somebody who's not really productive, who's not productive, who doesn't put a lot of effort. Or you may say something about the coach, like, coach really sucked, and you made a poor decision, I didn't get to play. I hear that on my students all the time. I didn't get to play that. Well, you might be, that's a feeling kind of thing, but if you stop back and you kind of work with another teammate who might be on the thinking side, they may say, well, you know, you did play 6 hours the last 2 games. You know where I'm coming from? So thinking looks at the impersonal side of making the decision. And I will say this as a leader, you have to be able to make a decision and not worry about what people feel. You have to make the best decision at the time. I work with John Maxwell. He's a real famous leadership speaker who's all over the world, probably the most popular in the world. And he says, you know, I tell my employees, and I work with Walmart and all these big companies, Amazon, all these companies. He says, you know, I tell the leader to make the best decision and don't make a decision because it's a good decision to make people happy and like you. My first job that I walked into, I was given the role as a project manager of an international website, big training website. And I walked in and everybody was trying to be relationship oriented. We're trying to make friends. And I said, yeah, I'm not here to make friends. I don't care about leaving here and going out and hanging out with the kids and having a drink at the bar or whatever. I'm here to do a job. And I told that team, and I established that right off the bat, that was my job. I don't care if I make you mad. I want to make things work. I also want to make the right decisions. So I think when you're in this leadership mindset, understanding your personality, you have to kind of say, where am I coming from? Am I making a decision because I want people to like me, or I value the relationship, which is very important. Don't think that I'm not saying that's not important, because it is. But am I making the decision that I'm using logical, objective thinking behind it? Does that make sense? So on the team, if you have conflict, sometimes pull the emotion out. So that's a great example where if you're on the thinking side, you need to put emotion in. You need to pull some emotion into a situation because you're too data driven. But if you're on the feeling side, you need to pull in some logic in. And then we work together to address the conflict. Conflict's one of the, I mean, I spend like 2 days sometimes doing conflict resolution for companies and workshops. And to me, that's the hardest thing when you're working with people. Conflict. Because conflict can be little tiny things or it can be really big things. Like, you know, you're going out with her, you know, your sister, and now you like, they broke up, and now you've got this personal fight, right? You know, you got this little personal, you know, anger. But you can't take that onto the field, can you? You can't bring that to the field with you. So how you make those decisions are essential. And then lastly is, look, how do you organize your life? And I think this is kind of cool. This has a lot of relevance. If you prefer your life to be planned, kind of stable, how many people here have a game plan? How many people play baseball? How many people are ready for the next level and you're going to go work? How many people have a pretty good structured plan in place? Anybody? You know kind of what, how many people know what you're doing in the next 3 years with 80% confidence? You know what you're going to be doing. How many people out here have no clue? You have no dang clue. You're like, whatever the wind sends me, wherever the world drops in my lap. That's a great place to be. Me too. So, is that a question?
You're good.
So, one of the things I think with your J or P, how many J's in here do we have? A lot of J's. How many P's do we have? Okay, I'm starting to see some patterns with folks. Okay, so your J is really is not judgmental. Don't think that you're judging people. Don't let people assume, oh, you're judgmental. You judge people too harshly or something like that. It's not what that means. And P is people who kind of go with the flow. So my P's in here, I saw a lot on this side. You're the ones who like to maintain flexibility and respond to things as they come to you. So one likes a little more structure. One's kind of like, well, you know, if I have 3 opportunities, somebody puts down 3 desserts in front of my plate, I'll just grab the first one that looks fresh, the first one that has the most color in it. You know, does that make sense? Versus the one that might have the least or the most calories. Judge, if you're a J, you like to have planning in your life, you like control, you like to be settled. You know, a lot of my girlfriend, she is a hardcore P. She likes structure, she likes organization, she gets frustrated when I have a mess. She does not like too many things going on. It could be variables that's kind of being thrown at us at once. Very pretty decisive and structured. P's, we're spontaneous. You know, I know if an opportunity came to me right in the next couple hours, and I had to make a decision right on the spot, I love that kind of stuff. I love being in organizations where there's something a decision needs to be made, and I have the confidence to make it. That feels really good. It's just like when you go up to the plate and you're ready to swing, and you know you've got a good history, that pitcher sucks, and you're ready to knock the ball out because you're feeling that good. You're feeling that good spontaneous energy. You're able to adapt more. So again, I think sometimes if you have P folks on your team and you've got some change, find those people. Find the people who are good at adapting to change and work with them. Because you have to kind of reassure them that everything's going to be okay. Okay? Your P folks are very valuable. Your J folks are really good because you're going to ground the P folks. Does that make sense? I used to give this assessment to all my girlfriends when I was dating, because I'm like, I never wanted to have the same person like me, because, you know, there'd be 2 squirrels running around, nobody knows where the tree is, right? And so I think in relationships, teams, we used to match professionals and work environment with the different styles. We put teams together because of this stuff. You don't want a bunch of engineers. A lot of you guys are going into engineering. I work in a chemical engineering firm with a lot of chemical and mechanical engineers, and you know, you get a bunch of those folks, they're all ENT or INTJs or ISTPs, and they're really rigid. And then you got to get a couple of people like me into the mix. When I was doing some consulting work on Volkswagen, I was done a couple years before I came to Bluefield. I wasn't here 5 years, but I was doing some fun consulting gigs, and I was doing this training program for the Chattanooga SOC plant. And they're a bunch of engineers from Germany, right? So you know what they're like. They're as dry, and their sense of humor was like that big, right? Here I come in, Mr. Social Butterfly, you know, been in a lot of different organizations. Most of these folks have been in the same organization for a long time, right? And so here comes a new guy. But you know what they were doing? They were building a hybrid SUV, the B-Hub. It was a really cool, innovative project, and I think they rolled it out in the last few years. And so I pulled this team together. They want to do some team building. So the manager's like, hey, let's get this out together. We'll go out to this lake. We'll have this team building thing. Man, it was really fascinating because they would not break outside their little box. And I always tell my students, I draw a big box up on the board every semester. I say, here's your box. This is your comfort zone. I said, life does not begin in your comfort zone because that's what you're used to. Life begins when you stretch that comfort zone. Here's your life. Here's where the quality moments happen. And they did not understand that at first, and they're like, oh. And so we started brainstorming some crazy ideas with this hybrid SUV vehicle. And at the end of the session, a couple of weeks later, the manager said, that was really good. It's just good sometimes to do like you're doing. Step outside the box. Stop. Think about your style. To keep in mind. So again, you've got your styles, you've got your types. So we've got that kind of right over here. I want you to realize this does not measure your ability, your skills. It does not measure your potential in life. It's just a little checkpoint looking in the mirror. That's how I use this stuff. I don't just say, oh, I'm going to I'm going to label this. It's a tool to kind of let you know about yourself. It gives you insights into your dominant preferences, okay? So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about how this fits into your leadership on the field, in your business, in your organization. And again, I told you earlier, there's a lot of leadership theories. I'm working on about to finish a doctorate at George Washington University in leadership and organizational development. And so we got into this, like every one of these topics has a foundation of how you get things done, from old Hammurabi and Genghis Khan. Those are leaders, right? So those are team and situational based leadership. And again, what this assessment I've given you is an authentic approach. Okay. So has everybody had a chance to take the assessment, the authentic leadership assessment? If you can, let's take about, I think how we doing on time? We got a little time. Let's take 5 minutes. Do the little assessment.
Who needs an assessment?
Can I get a couple? Please. So we're going to kind of switch gears. I'm talking about how your Myers-Briggs type fits into your leadership style. Do we have any questions online for our friends online?
No.
At the bottom, it'll tell you to how to do the scoring. Questions 1, 5, and 9, and 13. Add those up, get self-aware scores, and then you kind of go down. How many people aren't done, Richard? Get on there. presentations today. Sometimes I can't even get my students to focus more than about 30 seconds. Nobody's been on their toes. I transferred to Bluefield, I'll swap out some of mine. You're all more students. Very true. All right, I see a lot of hands popping up. So let's, you can keep adding up your scores as we go, but, and again, we can do this offline. But I wanted to kind of give you a little look at your leadership style. I think a lot of you guys who might be going into education, business, it doesn't matter what your topic, you're going to be leading. And I'm a firm believer that you can lead from the bottom. You might not have a salary, you might not have a fancy title, you may not have that job description as a leader, but all of you guys can lead and make a decision and make an impact in your organization. Everybody make a decision. You make a decision, you make a decision to come there. You could have told the coach, no, I don't come. You can make decisions to play ball or to not. You can go back home, quit. You have decisions you make every day. And I think this assessment is I work with leaders, and I'm passionate about our community. I'm passionate about building a future generation of people who can make a difference, because that's what we got to do. This gives you a chance to look in the mirror. Right? It gives you a chance to look at yourself, kind of know what your approach is. Okay? So let's kind of hit a couple of biggies here. So this assessment looks at authentic leadership. Now let's kind of define, I'm a little sleep here. Let's kind of define authentic leadership. We know that there's 60% of the problems, and not just in business, 60% of management problems because of bad communication. Errors, mistakes, miscommunications. Maybe you're doing codes, signs on the field. Maybe you're trying to make something work, get a business started, do something, get the task done. A lot of the problems come from bad management. So one of the things I think about with our assessment is I want us to think about where do we stand in understanding ourselves. This authentic assessment, this authentic leadership style assessment looks at how do we understand ourselves, okay? So I want you to look, focus on this. Self-awareness, how many people have a pretty high score? Or you may have a above 15. 10. Okay, cool. How many people have internalized moral perspective? How many people have above a 15 on this one? Okay, good. So those two items, one of them is self-awareness. So why is self-awareness important? Let me tell you why self-awareness is important when you communicate with people. Anybody?
I guess you gotta know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
To really talk to somebody.
It goes back to when you're on a plane and and your plane's going down, they say don't just grab the oxygen mask and put it on your kid, put it on you first. Say, be able to say, to help others, to help save others, and to really understand others, you gotta know yourself, right? You know your confidence, you gotta know how you communicate, your personal Myers-Briggs style, That's why this Myers-Briggs, your assessment style, personality style can help, is you're aware of yourself. You're aware of your little things. Maybe you're nervous around certain types of people. Maybe you feel inferior because you have funny haircut. Maybe you're inferior because I don't know. We all put pressures on ourselves. We need to be aware of that, don't we? So if you have a high score of self-awareness, you have a sense of understanding yourself. Second thing, internalized moral perspective. This has to do with how do we value ethics and making decisions that are right and wrong. And that's really part is authentic leaders. A good leader knows sometimes you have to do the things not everybody likes, but it's the right thing to do, right? And I've been in decisions where I used to manage training for this convention. We had 98 stores, over thousands of employees. We used to have to fire people, and I remember that was tough. And I had to go in. I had this fellow offered a scholarship, and I said he came from a broken home over in Asheville, North Carolina, and he had some drug problems. And he got a job, great personality. I felt that I could trust him. And I said, I want to do something for him and help you. I got him a scholarship. I got him $500. Helped him get into the, even I was training him how to run a cash register and manage a store. But 2 weeks later, I came back over there and the manager of that store told me they had to let him go. He palmed a 50 and kind of put it in his pocket. Stole $50. Somebody kept money for gas. Looked like he was putting it in the register. Most of these convenience stores have about 10, 15 video cameras that monitor. We call it. I saw it a couple of weeks after that at another store. It wasn't a convenience store, it was this chocolate store. They sold chocolate. I said, what happened? He said, I messed up. He had a very low moral perspective on what was right or wrong, and he had an opportunity. He could have gotten thousands and thousands of dollars of scholarship money if he just done the right decision, but he wasn't thinking long term. All right, what about balance processing? Balance processing. How many people got 15 on this one? Really cool. 10 to 15? Nice. So this is really how you balance, your perspective in life. Balance decision making, balance people's perspective and what you do, what you value. And then again, I'm going to go down to relational transparency. I value the transparency of how you can come to me comfortably. Are you the type of person where people will come to you, speak with you openly, confidently, respectfully? Authentic leadership. Again, authentic leaders are those who lead from their what we call true self. And that's what I value. There's servant leadership. There's path goal. Like when path goal basically is like the coach running or manager running interference for you so you can get a job done, right? But servant leadership is serving others with your passion of service, and then authentic leadership is being your true self. So if you have over 15 or 20 on this area, I think you really embrace just being who you are as a leader. You don't have to put up front. You don't have to come in. I don't have to come in and say, I'm a white professor at Bluefield College, and I'm just going to work with you as a person. I want to be my true self. What you see, what you get is kind of approach, right? And that's what leadership to me is about, being your true self as much as you can to get the job done. And your personality profiles that we've been talking about boil down to your communication style. So again, we get back to how we pull all this together. I don't have a lot of time, but I want to kind of pull in your leadership style and your personality communication style. And we know that communication is this. Message send to receiver, but that's not the easiest way to do it. It's not that easy. We have to value emotional intelligence. And this goes back to your assessment here. You need to be able to express yourself. You need to be able to relate to others. Put yourself in their shoes. Emotional intelligence is one of those classes we constantly teach in business because we sometimes think just by facts and make decisions objectively. We don't pull in subjectivity. We don't pull in the relationship piece of making decisions and working with people. So emotional intelligence, a lot of companies now are saying, I don't care what your score is or what your grade point average is. Can you relate to my customer? Can you relate to your team? Can you be empathetic and not just be about you? One of the bad things we see in a lot of generations that are kind of stepping into the workplace now, I hear a lot of complaints from our company owners, is this generation comes in, they're just about me. What are you giving me? What are you doing for me? And that approach is going to really screw you in your world of professionalism, because if you're just looking for yourself, number one, you're not giving the best to your employer, and you're not going to move as fast in the chain of opportunity. Does that make sense? And I think emotional intelligence is what companies are looking for. How can you adapt to change? Can you solve problems? When I throw you a curveball, my classes, you can ask Savannah and some other students here, my classes are not structured. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 assignments. You use this right there. I give you ambiguous scenarios so you can figure out and learn on your own. That's the real world. It's not the academic world, it's the real world. You got to be able to adapt to this crazy world that's coming your way because there's so much information changing. You cannot learn today and be prepared tomorrow because it's not going to happen. If you're going into real estate, going into engineering, there's tools now that do totally different things than they will yesterday. So I think we go back to these styles. I want to talk about communication styles for a second with nonverbal. So nonverbal communication is basically about 60% of how we communicate. If you notice, I move a lot with my hands. I'm giving most of you, I've probably got one person I have not given direct eye contact to. Now, a lot of teachers might stand up here in one place and talk to one student. A lot of times we do that because it's our little cover zone. Our cover zone, not here, it's up here. Nonverbal communication is how we show our professionalism, how we dress, how you look, how you take care of your grooming, your vocal and spatial expressions. That sends enormous. So your message might be really good. You may be the best speaker or knowledgeable speaker in the world, but if you can't effectively communicate. When I was in Brazil, my friends down in Brazil went to the 7 universities, man, energy comes through, doesn't it? And if you don't bring your voice and your facial expressions when you communicate with your team, your colleagues, on work or on the field, that's going to be a missed opportunity. So think about how you use your voice, your facial expressions, your kinesthetics, your body movements. I know I'm probably a little extreme on the body movements, but everybody has their own approach. But I think people pay attention to that. Here's the number one thing I see in organizations: do not be able to be on this thing 100%. Eye contact. The biggest factor when I'm interviewing somebody or I'm talking to this person is if they have a device, tablet, or something like that, and they focus on that as soon as a text comes in or a snap or something like that. I'm like, you lost me. If you can't give me eye contact, you can't be with me. And an organization I work for, we used to call Be Here Now. We made every employee put a little chip in their badge as a big power company, utility in Tennessee. We said, be here now, be present, because you may miss the opportunity to connect with that person again. If you can't connect with them in person, whatever's on that phone ain't important. You lose somebody right then, your girlfriend, your coach, your friend, you lose that connection because you're on your phone, you're so worried about that, man, you missed the boat. I've seen so many employees miss opportunities because they weren't listening, they weren't engaged, they weren't focusing on the opportunity at the moment. And so you go back to your style. How does your style convey? Obsolescence, eye movements, that's a big distractor. I'm not going to go into this emotional intelligence stuff because we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to emphasize this last step: listening. Think about your style. Think about your judgment, your thinking approach, your intuition, your introversion, extroversion. But I want you to really pull those together and be a good listener. If you want to be a good leader, you're a good listener. I worked in this bar. My last little story is I worked in this bar with this fellow named Ken. Ken was a bartender at the Country Western Bar. There were 3 or 4 others that were there, but Ken made 10 times more money. The other night, he walked away $200-$300. And I'm like, Ken, how do you do so well? He said, it's real simple. Eyes, ears open, mouth closed. People come in and want to talk. It's a social environment. If you open up your ears, God gave us 2 ears and 2 eyes and only 1 mouth, right? Think about that. We should be taking in more information than we are just excited to say what's next and talking. Put your ears and eyes open and embrace the other person's perspective. You're going to be a better leader. People will come to you. They'll tell you what's truly going on and not just what you want to hear. So on the field, be that person. In business, be that person. Engage people. Don't judge people. Don't judge that person because you might have a bad experience with them. Open your mind up and listen. Listen with your heart, listen with your ears. Listen with your eyes. Okay? So that's kind of, I'm going to end here because I know we don't have a lot of time. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? Or how many people with all this stuff is kind of relevant? Again, I squeeze sometimes 6 days into 45 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for me? I always like to open it up. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to open it up because this is an opportunity for you guys to throw out some questions. Yes, ma'am.
Is it normal for your employer to maybe ask for your Myers-Briggs, your leadership style?
Absolutely.
Or how would you recommend incorporating that into your professional life?
Some people are putting it on the resumes. I think, we do a strengths assessment too. That's, to me, is really great assessment. If y'all haven't done a strengths finder, do it. It's a test. It's an assessment of your greatest characteristics and strengths. It's not a personality assessment. So yeah, I always have a conversation with my boss. I'm like, hey, what's your Myers-Briggs? And they're like, I don't know what that is. Oh, really? It's the way we think, judge, and make decisions and stuff like that. It's really valuable tool. Hey, you want to take it sometime? That's how I always usually got my girlfriend to do that. Hey, want to do this? It's kind of fun. But it's also usually it's a psychometric assessment that really helps you understand personality type of mirror. You can use that approach. I think it's valuable because if you go and say, I want to know you a little bit better, and I want to spend time with knowing who you are, because we have to work together, right? Might not like you. I might not like that you make a little more money than I do, but I still got to work with you. So that's a good question. Make it part of the conversation. Others. I'm leaving with one other thing. So I told you earlier, we are opening a little actually bar down in Bluefield, Virginia. And I got 3 questions that relate to the city of Bluefield. And if you get it right, you get a free axe throwing session and a free warm or cold beverage. So what is the flower that's purple that's popping up around Bluefield?
Hydrangeas.
No, the Bluefield flower. Chicory. When was Bluefield, West Virginia, industrialized, incorporated? What year? Give me a year. Throw a year out. You had nothing to lose but
1889.
Dude, are you serious? It's totally 1889. How'd you know that? It is 1889.
It is. That was good.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, name me one famous person who came from here that was really good at math. Good, very good. John Nash, the mathematician. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Coach, let me come in.
Wait, before you leave, don't leave. I feel like a teacher. Don't leave. Hold on. I need you all to do something since you joined our class. There's going to be a QR screen or a QR code that pops up. If you will all, please go to this. Hold on. QR code on the top left. It's for a survey for this class. Please take that survey. It allows us to keep offering these classes, and it tells my boss, Faith's boss, that we're doing a good job by providing these courses. So your participation will be much appreciated. David Hite will be joining us again for time management in 2 weeks. If that interests you, you can sign up for that, and you can scan that QR code as well. I will send this to your email, but please just fill it out. Take a moment, fill it out. If you guys have any questions, we'll be hanging out for just a couple minutes.
Yeah, my email's up. You can Google my name. I've got an email too. And I want to thank one of my colleague, my student colleague, we worked on this workshop. So, Victor Mahersa from Brazil, and business major, thank you for